Boi. Come. Bashalan. In the peace. Atele. Putting crown on. Biler. Her husband. Boi Kailar. Come bride. This is a beautiful Hebrew wedding song, as if the angels in heaven are calling for the bride who has been waiting for 6,000 years to stand up bravely and put on the crown of glory for the coming King of Heaven.
Hello everyone, welcome to Enoch Talk Show. Today we continue the story of Jacob, Part 8. Jesus interprets the scriptures like flowing living water, and Enoch rediscovered these in the Doomsdays. Rachel was in danger of an idol, and Laban chased after Jacob's family. In the last few parts we talked about the two nations are in the belly of Rebekah. We also went into detail about the meaning of the names Jacob and Esau. Jacob deceived the birthright with red bean soup. Jacob cheated the blessing. These two cheats are double quotation marks, referring to the eyes of people on earth. We talked about Jacob's double marriage and sister's jealousy. Jacob's scheme and Laban's 10 times altered Jacob's wages. Now let us talk about Rachel was in danger of an idol, and Laban chased after Jacob's family. Let's talk about Jesus' way of interpretation of the Torah again. Maybe you will say, who are you? You have never seen Jesus, how can you know Jesus' way of interpretation? In fact, everyone in the Enoch team will do what Enoch does, that is, directly connect with God, and finally get the special gift of God, which is what Jesus said, the hidden manna. This will be the proof that you will be the one who was allowed to board the Doomsday Ark. Without this special manna, you can't even enter the Ark. This tells those who say, you shouldn't know Jesus' interpretation of the Torah if you haven't seen Jesus. You should just go back and stick to the dogma of your church. That's what Jesus said, as the church has claimed, and everything else is a cult. Stay in your church like a nerd waiting for the false Jesus you hope to come and take you to hell. Why? It's very simple, everyone in the Ark is a heresy in these nerds' eyes, and whoever offer not different insights from everyone will be expelled from the Ark. You said, such a person, in our team, can stay for the next day. Get out our way. God distributes manna to everyone who wants to enter the Ark. In the end, everyone brings their own unique opinions and reveals distinguished part of God's overall plan in the Ark. Do you think we cannot win after seeing God's whole plan? That is to say, we are reading the Torah for only one purpose, and that is to find a way to escape the Great Tribulation. If you are staying in the dogma of your church, why are you here in the Doomsday Ark? Even if we tell you the way to escape, you will roll your eyes in disbelief. The Bible is full of escape routes, such as grabbing Esau's heels, telling the Israelites to grab this small group of Enoch's team. For another example, starting from the 71st year since the establishment of the nation of Israel, God reduced the blessings of the Adam family and continued to give blessings to the Jacob family, that is, the Israel family. The Adam family will experience wealth degrade year by year. But we, Israelites, are going to seek wealth. Of course, these wealth are for us to complete God's mission. However, we need to remember that God will eventually accomplish us in the last instant, just like the morning after the killing of the eldest son of Egyptians in Exodus. Of course, this is also referred to that the little horn in Doomsday overturned many big horns, which will be in aspects of wealth, wisdom, and power. Little horn, i.e., Jacob, will surpass the prides of Adam's house in every respect. After you understand the method of reading the scriptures, you will continue to discover manna and increase your confidence. Eventually, we can collectively take off like one wing or one shoulder. Okay, let's explain one more place. Scripture. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To him who overcomes I will give some of the hidden manna to eat. And I will give him a white stone, and on the stone a new name written which no one knows except him who receives it. Revelation 2 verse 17 NKJV. And the gold of that land is good. Bdellium and the onyx stone are there. Genesis 2 verse 12 NKJV. Are these two chapters unrelated? But when you come to the original text, that pearl turns out to be betelach, which is chet, with separate betel, legs, and agate, turns out to be hasoham, stone ebon, referring to the hay, name Shem. I hope you now understand the meaning of the name of our website and the name of the Enoch team. Miriam, the name of Moses' sister, refers both to the suffering, to the beloved of God, and to the prodigal son of Adam's family. Heshem is the stone fence of the white stone, which separates sin from cleanliness, God's kings. The pearl and the onyx are the ones that separate and bear the name, the stone, which is actually the one that separates sin, the stone of kings. You must know in God's place, everything is alive, the olive tree is alive, the golden lampstand is alive, the stone is also alive. Do you now understand the stone on which Jacob rested? In the end he poured oil on it? Therefore, our family of Adam lives because of the family of Israel, and we are double blessed because of the family of Israel, and we have no right to blame them, but thank them. When the Great Tribulation will begin, we will have a period of time to learn the Israelites' method, and they will also learn the Jesus method. Only then will we truly understand everything in the scriptures that we need to be alive in Doomsday. After we are all ready, God the Father will put us into the testing, so by listening to Enoch talk about things in heaven is to give everyone a final push to enter the ark. Of course in return, you will push us as well, because God will have special blessings, special manna for you to bless our team. Going back to Jacob, let's see how the scriptures describe Jacob's flight. Then Jacob rose and set his sons and his wives on camels. And he carried away all his livestock and all his possessions which he had gained, his acquired livestock which he had gained in Padan Aram, to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. Now Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the household idols that were her father's. And Jacob stole away, unknown to Laban the Syrian, in that he did not tell him that he intended to flee. So he fled with all that he had. He arose and crossed the river, and headed toward the mountains of Gilead. And Laban was told on the third day that Jacob had fled. Then he took his brethren with him and pursued him for 7 days' journey, and he overtook him in the mountains of Gilead. But God had come to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night, and said to him, "Be careful that you speak to Jacob in neither good nor bad." So Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mountains, and Laban with his brethren pitched in the mountains of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, "What have you done, that you have stolen away unknown to me, and carried away my daughters like captives taken with the sword? Why did you flee away secretly, and steal away from me, and not tell me? For I might have sent you away with joy and songs, with timbrel and harp. And you did not allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters. Now you have done foolishly in so doing. It is in my power to do you harm, but the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, 'Be careful that you speak to Jacob in neither good nor bad.' And now you have surely gone because you greatly long for your father's house, but why did you steal my gods?" Then Jacob answered and said to Laban, "Because I was afraid, for I said, perhaps you would take your daughters from me by force. With whomever you find your gods, do not let him live. In the presence of our brethren, identify what I have of yours and take it with you." For Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. And Laban went into Jacob's tent, into Leah's tent, and into the two maids' tents, but he did not find them. Then he went out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the household idols, put them in the camel's saddle, and sat on them. And Laban searched all about the tent but did not find them. And she said to her father, "Let it not displease my lord that I cannot rise before you, for the manner of women is with me." And he searched but did not find the household idols. Then Jacob was angry and rebuked Laban, and Jacob answered and said to Laban, "What is my trespass? What is my sin, that you have so hotly pursued me? Although you have searched all my things, what part of your household things have you found? Set it here before my brethren and your brethren, that they may judge between us both. These 20 years I have been with you, your ewes and your female goats have not miscarried their young, and I have not eaten the rams of your flock. That which was torn by beasts I did not bring to you, I bore the loss of it. You required it from my hand, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. There I was. In the day the drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep departed from my eyes. Thus I have been in your house 20 years, I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flock, and you have changed my wages 10 times. Unless the God of my father, the God of Abraham and the fear of Isaac, had been with me, surely now you would have sent me away empty-handed. God has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked you last night." And Laban answered and said to Jacob, "These daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and this flock is my flock, all that you see is mine. But what can I do this day to these my daughters or to their children whom they have borne? Now therefore, come, let us make a covenant, you and I, and let it be a witness between you and me." So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. Then Jacob said to his brethren, "Gather stones." And they took stones and made a heap, and they ate there on the heap. Laban called it Jegar-sahadutha, but Jacob called it Galeed. And Laban said, "This heap is a witness between you and me this day." Therefore its name was called Galeed, also Mizpah, because he said, "May the Lord watch between you and me when we are absent one from another. If you afflict my daughters, or if you take other wives besides my daughters, although no man is with us, see, God is witness between you and me." Then Laban said to Jacob, "Here is this heap and here is this pillar, which I have placed between you and me. This heap is a witness, and this pillar is a witness, that I will not pass beyond this heap to you, and you will not pass beyond this heap and this pillar to me, for harm. The God of Abraham, the God of Nahor, and the God of their father judge between us." And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice on the mountain, and called his brethren to eat bread. And they ate bread and stayed all night on the mountain. And early in the morning Laban arose, and kissed his sons and daughters and blessed them. Then Laban departed and returned to his place. Genesis 31 verses 17 to 55 NKJV. First question, why did Jacob sneak away? From the dialogue, we know that if Jacob had forcibly left in front of Laban, Laban would have killed Jacob and kept the whole family in his own. When Jacob ran away and Laban chased after him, God had time to warn Laban that he could not attack Jacob. Laban brought many strong men to kill Jacob. If Laban had come to farewell Jacob, then he would have come himself. One person for farewell is enough. Because there were so many people, food and drink would become a big expense, and the stingy Laban would not make a loss-making business. So after the event is completed, he and men he brought with him still had a big feast from Jacob and then left. Rachel made a huge mistake this time, and it also foreshadowed the mistake in her afterlives, and she will eventually end up crying in heaven because her children were all gone. At that time, this false god idol was made of dead people's heads, put a piece of metal in their mouths, offered them at home, covered them with gold, and this piece became alive. If the family had any important matters at home, they could ask the idol. So, it must be the devil's trick. When Laban found out that Jacob was gone, he went to ask the idol in his house, "Where did Jacob go?" But he found that the idol was gone. Now he had an excuse to kill Jacob, because Jacob stole the most valuable thing in the house. He hurriedly ran to the next house and asked about the idol of the next house. He knew where Jacob was going, and he caught up. We know that Jacob was supposed to be godly and would never have allowed this to happen, so it's not Jacob's fault. Rachel did this also for protecting Jacob, thinking that as long as she stole the idol, Laban would not know Jacob's whereabouts and they would be safe. Whoever thought of Laban could go to the next door and would be able to ask about their idol. Rachel's lack of confidence in God's ability to protect Jacob led her to such a low-level error. This had a great influence on her later lives. Later on during the life of the Virgin Mary, God will show us through Rachel's actions, billions of Christians will be lost in the doomsday. Of course, there is nothing wrong with Christians, more than 90% of us came from there, but losing 99% really shouldn't be. Rachel's behavior directly led to her own death in childbirth, and she gave birth to Benjamin and died in childbirth, and she saw the outcome of her offspring before she died. Let's look at the scriptures. And Jacob called the name of the place where God spoke with him, Bethel. Then they journeyed from Bethel. And when there was but a little distance to go to Ephrath, Rachel labored in childbirth, and she had hard labor. Now it came to pass, when she was in hard labor, that the midwife said to her, "Do not fear, you will have this son also." And so it was, as her soul was departing, for she died, that she called his name Benoni, but his father called him Benjamin. Genesis 35 verses 15 to 18 NKJV. What the mother sees is the fate of vast majority of her offspring, and what the father sees is the fate of a small group of the most remarkable, the God's might right hand. In Jacob's words of blessing Benjamin, we know that the tribe of Benjamin will produce good wolves, God's wolves, such as Elijah and Mordecai in Esther. There will also be Satan's wolves, such as King Saul. If billions of Christians are lost in hell, will Mother Mary and Paul, the Saul of the tribe of Benjamin, escape responsibility? Paul had never seen Jesus, but only had an inspiration when he was recruited. Most of things about Jesus he knew came from the Virgin Mary. Some must have come from the Virgin Mary, some came from Constantine's wife, so Elijah should cleanse them. When we look at the Virgin Mary in history, has she been sitting on the statue of false god, with Paul of the Benjamin tribe escorting her? Can we understand what Rachel has revealed here? Well, back to Jacob. He was just out of the wolf's den of the father-in-law, Laban, but unexpectedly falling into the tiger's mouth, Esau. When you know why these happened from the book of Jasher, you will be shocked by Laban's evil heart. After Laban left Jacob, he went straight home, but he still planned to kill Jacob. So, he sent his confidants to go to Esau and told Esau how bad Jacob was. Esau became angry when he heard it, and immediately led 400 strong men, 5 times more than Jacob's servants, and Esau rushed to kill Jacob. Laban's plan was that when Jacob died, he would be able to take his daughter's family back. Of course, he also knew that in the process of killing Jacob, his daughters and grandchildren may die too, but he was so hatred to Jacob that he had even been willing to lose his own daughters and grandsons. Look, this is how bad Laban was. So, God led him seriously ill and died very soon after Rebekah died, because God didn't want to make Rebekah feel sorry for his brother's death, so waited until God took Rebekah back to heaven. Even so, God still blessed Laban's descendants because Laban helped Jacob. By the time of Exodus, Balaam, the king of Egypt's greatest counselor, was, according to Israel's rabbis in the book of Jasher, a descendant of Laban, and he did play an important role to persecute the Israelites. In the end, after God made him praise the Israelites 3 times, Balaam actually told the Gentiles used Midianite women to corrupt the Israelites. 30,000 Israelites died that day, about 5% of overall Israelites at that time. This will be the last big test in the Doomsday Arkansas. The temptation from women was still Laban's scheming. The name Balaam means, not the God's chosen people. Well, we will stop here. Next time we will discuss the 9th part of the book, which is also the most dangerous part for Jacob. Esau was so angry to come to kill Jacob, and the angels stopped this mighty tiger. Wrestling with that man ended with change of Jacob's name, and Jacob humbly himself in front Esau eliminated all his hatred. Thank you for listening to the Enoch Talk Show. See you next time.